Hi, and welcome to Revive and Rise. I'm your host, Melody Parrish, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It is a new month, the month of April, and our theme for this month is addiction. And so we want to get down into the depths of addiction. First, I want to start with a definition. So everything that I share is my personal opinions and beliefs. I am not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm only talking about what I think and things that have worked for me. As always, every experience is different and individual. So, my thoughts on the definition of addiction is a strong desire for comfort and or safety, which leads to an inability to make good choices that affect us in a positive way. And I think that's very important. The strong point for me is the strong desire for comfort, because that strong desire in most instances overpowers our rational thinking. The strong desire for comfort sets off your survival mode response or a fight or flight response in your sympathetic nervous system. And so what it does is that just becomes automatic. So when your brain starts to desire comfort and safety, your brain just automatically goes into an automatic mode and reacts and does whatever's going to keep you safe. And I think a lot of times addiction is just misunderstood, greatly misunderstood. We tend to think that if the object of our addiction is not present, then the addiction will not continue, right? So if we're an alcoholic or a drug addict and the alcohol or the drugs are not available, then the addict will be cured and everything will be okay. If you get certain foods out of the house, if you have a food addiction, then, everything's okay. No more addiction. We're free. Or thoughts of like, if you're addicted to sex or pornography, if those things are taken away from you, then you won't have an addiction anymore. And that's so misunderstood, because the point is the underlying problem. And the underlying problem is that there's something that needs to be addressed. What comfort or safety are you seeking? What is causing you to feel unsafe or insecure? So that's what we're going to dive into, because when you look at the neuroscience of the whole addiction cycle, there's several cycles. One of the neurotransmitters that instantly comes into mind is dopamine. And dopamine is called the feel-good hormone or neurotransmitter. So what that does is you do something, dopamine is released, and it makes you feel good. And that's generally another misunderstanding as well, because a lot of people think that addiction is just to feel good. You're just wanting to get high. You're just wanting that feeling that you get when you are drunk, or when you are completely full, or when you have and obtain that the object of your desire. But that's not true. What you're originally seeking is the comfort and safety, right? So it also has been shown in recent research that dopamine also controls the cycle for desire. So the more dopamine that's released, the greater your desire is. So it's not just controlling your feel-good hormones, but it's also controlling your desire. And so that's important because when the dopamine's released, then you want more. When the dopamine's released, you want more. And you keep wanting more. And now let's look at oxytocin. So oxytocin is the hormone that is involved in the cycle for social connection. So if you need to feel connected to something or someone, oxytocin's released. You want that. Also, it's also involved when you're the mother-child bond. Also involves oxytocin. So that's really important, and it poses a really good question: is if oxytocin's released, if you need connection, if you need those social connections, then if you attain the object of your addiction, the oxytocin will be released, and that will be met. That need will be met. So it's a lot of complicated theories and cycles of hormones that cause the addiction to occur. And so we need to really think about that, and you need to dive in and understand what's going on in your brain, what's causing these cycles to occur, what's causing these desires, what's causing all of these things. It's not the alcohol or the drug or whatever the object is that you're addicted to, but it's what's underneath. And that's something that we need to realize. A lot of people blame others and form all these opinions, and they want to be that way. I don't know an addict of anything that wants to be an addict simply because you're so out of control. You can't control it. You can't control the desire. You can't control the want. And it's so strong that in your mind, it turns into a need. So it's no longer, oh, I want that, but oh, I need that. And when that occurs, that's when you really need to seek help. You have to seek help when the want becomes a need. Hopefully before that, but if not, that's definitely a sign that you need some kind of help from a professional counselor, therapist, whatever it may be. So I want to share, that's a little backstory of my opinions and my thoughts on addiction. I do want to share my story and my thoughts and experiences with addiction. So, as everyone might know, I have had 2 major health experiences. one of which, well, both of which, I lost the ability to walk and have fine motor skills. But also with that came a degree of pain. In both instances, there was a degree of physical pain involved, and so I was on opioids both when I was 14 and again when I was a senior in college. And I did not like that feeling at all. And I think it had such a negative impact on me that my body and my memory stored it. It stored that feeling, and it stored those thoughts about that whole experience. I think I already was out of control. I couldn't move my body, and sometimes other times in other instances, my body would move without me telling it to. So it's a feeling of not being in control, of loss of control, of I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. And I didn't like that feeling. I did not like that feeling at all. And then when you put on top of that an opioid, even if it's controlled, is prescribed by a doctor, that doesn't matter. It's still going to have the same effect, right? So when you add that to it, the feelings that I was feeling in the first place, and then all of the emotions, right, that come with those feelings, all of the emotions of I've lost control, I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I'm worthless, I'm useless, all of those emotions piled onto that, it just becomes a complex mass of negativity. And that was what I thought of when I thought of the feeling that opioids gave me. So as far as a substance abuse addiction, I never, ever wanted it. That's not where I, sought what I need. I didn't seek comfort and safety in anything like that. Even though, we are, as a society, we are led to believe and sent subliminal messages and social cues that substances will provide comfort and safety. In my recent bout with PTSD, the pain that I felt was so strong that despite my past, I seriously contemplated using substances. I felt like if that could relieve some of the emotional and mental stress and pain that I was enduring, I would gladly do it. So I was like on the flip side. I got to a point where I did decide that maybe that would be the answer. And, but these social cues, these subliminal messages, they're so simple. Like you're watch TV or you're hanging out with your friends and it's like, oh, I've had such a hard day. I need to just go have a drink to relax. I need to just have a drink to take the edge off. I need to, all these little things. To unwind, you need to just have a little alcohol, or, if you really just want to forget all your troubles, just, take a few pills, take a shot of this substance, snort something. These things are just sent to us, even though we don't realize we see it, we hear it. And so once you start hearing those and seeing those, then it just ends up that you, in a way, deep down, you start believing it. So if you're, for example, in my case, when I experienced pain, I immediately went to it and said, maybe everybody says that this will work. I see that this will work. Maybe it will for me. And as I was contemplating it, my mind said, no, alert, alert, alert. Remember this. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. Just trash that idea. So that was going on in my mind, and it was this struggle back and forth and back and forth. So I resorted to television, the internet. I resorted to anything that would distract me enough to keep away from my pain. And I did that when I was 14. I did that when I was in college. And then I've done recently with my bout with PTSD, I've done it again. And I don't want to be in silence. So I have to have either the television or the radio on constantly. Because I don't want to think. I don't want to be in the quiet where I'm alone with my thoughts and I'm alone with my emotions. I just want some noise, something that can distract me when I start to think. And it's become like that's the first thing that I want to do. I walk in the door, I immediately cut on the television, or I immediately start looking at the computer. Immediately. Now, it's not like I'm not doing helpful things when I'm on the computer, because sometimes that can get confusing when it's an addiction or when it's not. But I've started to use these tools as an avoidance to not think about things, an avoidance to not face things. And in those kind of addictions, even though you're not using substances, they can be quite impactful, and they can still be negative. They can still affect your life negatively. And also, another thing that I turn to when those didn't work is food. I would just uncontrollably keep eating, not even think about it. It's not like I was hungry. And it wasn't that I was doing it from boredom. I just ate because at least that satisfied me. It made me feel a little better for one moment or two. And I would eat things like ice cream and chip, something that's not healthy. And I know it's not healthy, but yet I would sit and I would just eat and eat and eat. So those are the things, and you don't think about those kinds of things. When people talk about addiction, they don't really think about those kind of things. But you can be addicted to other things than substances. And I think people need to become more aware, because the bottom line is, at least my belief, I don't think anything is bad for you. There's no food, there's no drink, there's nothing that's bad for you if it's taken in moderation. And that's the thing. You get to these addictive behaviors is what you're doing in moderation, or is it in excess? And that's where the addiction comes. Excess versus moderation. Because you can eat a piece of cake and still be a healthy individual. But it's when you eat a whole cake instead of a piece, that it becomes a problem. You can have a drink And that's okay, that's good. But it's when you take it to excess and you have a bottle or you have like 3 12 packs or you have whatever in excess to where it's not so good for you. So it's not about what the object of your desire is, but it's just about the excess of it and the addictive behavior and what causes that, whether it's pain, seeking comfort from something, seeking safety. If you're insecure for one reason or another, you want to be safe. You want to feel safe, and your body's in survival mode. It will do whatever it takes to feel safe. So these are just some thoughts that I had surrounding addiction, and I was sharing my story, and I'm still, trying to learn and improve on these behaviors, on my addictive behaviors, and I'm trying to just make better choices for myself. And I want to, so next week, we're going to have an episode with a very, very special guest, Andy Smith from Sober in 7. And we'll be talking about substance abuse, substance addiction. And I love Andy's thoughts and ideas about addiction and his whole ideology and theories. It's amazing. So you don't want to miss it. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And just remember that you do not have to suffer alone.